In this video, I'm very much hoping that I can get the replacement engine for my Fiat 500 TwinAir started. A bit of a sit rep then as to where we are. In the last video, you would have seen me cranking on the ignition and basically absolutely nothing happening. I've got a couple of error codes when I plugged it into my scanner, and they can basically just be traced back to the fact that there is no oil pressure in this engine yet. So you would have seen me cranking probably about 5 seconds at a time. I gave that a go about 10 times in the end, and the reason that I wasn't actually giving it much stick is simply because of my inexperience. I didn't want to stress the starter motor, and I didn't really know how far I can push it. How long can you crank on it before something bad happens? It turns out, thanks to lots of incredible people in the comments on that video, that you can actually crank it for quite a bit longer, maybe 10, even 15 seconds, and that shouldn't really cause any damage at all. And I had lots of comments on, how I can regain oil pressure in this engine, and they've been really, really helpful. But the common theme was, you just need to kind of keep going. Like, I just stopped too early because I didn't want to cause damage, so I'm just going to keep going with it, but not just going to ham on the ignition and cause any damage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the spark plugs first, and then removing the spark plugs, I believe, is going to ensure that there's absolutely zero compression on the engine. It's going to remove a lot of the internal pressure, so the starter motor is going to have an even easier time of it, and then I can just crank on it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically watch the dashboard and just check to see when the oil level light goes out, and then that should mean that we have oil pressure in the engine again. I did have a Fiat technician, Tommaso, comment, and according to him, he said that these engines are notorious for just losing oil pressure. And so I did a little bit of research into that, and it turns out that there's just loads and loads and hundreds of people that go away for a few weeks. They go on holiday for 2, 3, 4 weeks, leave their TwinAir at home just parked up, come back, and it's just lost oil pressure. These engines are so incredibly sensitive to oil pressure, and there's obviously something about it that just means that they're susceptible to losing oil pressure. I don't know what it is exactly. So right, let's just crack on with this. I'm going to remove these spark plugs, and then let's get back together again in the cab and we'll twist on the key. Okay, so I've taken the spark plugs out, I've disconnected the coils because I didn't want them shorting out on the engine block. I don't know if that's going to change anything here. This looks like all these lights are flashing to you, but they're actually solid. It's to do with the camera. This light up here is what I'm looking for to go out when I start cranking it. This is the oil light up there. So really, I think I'm just going to try cranking it and just keep going in short bursts still until that goes away. Also, I've disconnected the fuel pump as well. I took the relay out again. Okay, so the oil light has gone out on just the second crank now, so I think that is basically all there was to it, he says. I don't know. I think I might just do it once or twice more. Right, so if it is as simple as that, I shall be over the moon. So what I'm going to do now is put the relay back in there for the fuel pump, put the spark plugs back in, and then I think just crank it properly. Let's just give it a go, see what happens. Okay, that's fuel pump, you can hear it. Yes. Go on. Go on. Oh, come on. Ha! Get in. Get in. Check for leaks. Nothing yet. Nice and dry. Sounds fine. These TwinAir engines, they do sound quite, they can sound quite clunky, you know. They're kind of like a bit all over the place. Right, I'm just going to leave this to idle for a little bit and then basically see what happens. Okay, so Tina's been idling now for a few minutes. She's not quite fully up to temperature yet, so you can see in there. So we have got down there a light on, but I mean that's kind of to be expected, I suppose. There's no oil light on, that's just the door. Handbrake, so there's nothing, there's no like dodgy noises, there's no bad smells. There was a little bit of something burning off a second ago, but that looked like it burnt off. There's no leaks underneath. That's great. There's no smoke out of the exhaust, it's just clear. So I think we might have done it. I think this engine, this new engine that I picked up off of eBay is a decent engine, and hopefully Tina is going to be singing once again. Oh, that is such a relief though. That is such a relief so far. I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, thank you ever so much to everyone that commented on the last video. It's things like this, you know, when it all comes together, that I appreciate it like more than ever. You lot are fantastic. Okay, she's been idling now for about 15 minutes. She's fully up to temperature. Sounds good. If you can hear a real metallic-y, clinking, clanketing, flippity sound, that's just the bracket for where the exhaust meets the bottom of the cat. I haven't done it up, so it's just rattling around. Now, the only thing that was slightly sus was I started to, I don't know if you can see it, it's very faint, started to get some, well, steam I suppose it actually is, or smoke or something come out of here, and I thought, oh no, the turbo is on fire basically. But what it actually is right in there. So this, the top rad hose, I think it's leaking ever so slightly, like ever so slightly onto the hose below it, which I think is one of the heater hoses. I've tightened this up, but it's still kind of doing it, so I'm wondering if maybe I need to replace this top rad hose, to be honest with you. It's very, very slight. It's very, very slight, but I might have a look, see if I can just pick a new one of these up, just to be real safe really. I don't want anything to go wrong. You know, this is all great so far. So, I mean, one thing I have noticed is obviously the coolant has gone down just a tiny bit past the minimum. That's to be expected. So I'm gonna turn this off now, I think, let it cool down. I want to top that coolant up, and then I think we should plug the computer in and take a look at what this light is all about. Maybe it just needs the previous codes clearing, I don't know, but this has made me very happy. Got my tool hooked up, so I think you go into there. Okay, so the faults I've got: fuel pump relay and the spark plug anti-fouling. They're the two that were on there before. So I think they've just been carried over. So I think if I clear these, right, clear fault memory, fires straight back up nicely. Okay, we've got the light back. There's no more fault codes. So I'm thinking maybe that's to do with the fact that, you know, the headlights and the fog lights and stuff still aren't connected. And I've got these check daytime running light warnings coming up and all sorts of stuff. So I think I might well just leave that light as it is for now, and then when I've got all the car buttoned up again properly and it's back down on its wheels with the bumper cover, everything attached, then revisit that, I think, maybe. I'm not going to lie, I kind of took myself a little bit by surprise. I only really was going to put the front clip on and then just put the bumper things on ready, and then, well, I just kept going. And now the whole car's put back together, basically. I don't know if that's premature of me or not, but it's all back together. Everything's looking good as well. I haven't done the bumper fixings and that around the back there, or the under tray, but yeah, Tina is coming right back together again. So what I do need to do is, I think I'm going to replace these brakes. These did get flagged on its last MOT in October, so I think I'm just going to replace them. It's really cheap, to be honest with you, and it's a really easy job. I'm sure lots of you know, changing discs and pads, dead simple. I think I'm going to go grab some discs and pads and I'll get those done, because I am going to put this car right through an MOT. I know it's got a current valid MOT, but with all this work I've done, especially, you know, with the engine, let's just send it there, get a fresh bill of health, and then, you know, that's going to be a nice thing for the next owner as well, isn't it, to be able to buy a car with a year's MOT, and then hopefully fingers crossed, no advisories. I've also got new axle nuts as well, so I'll put the new axle nuts on, get all this tidied up, and then we're going to be real close. I'm waiting on an exhaust, because I don't know if you can see, it's there's this little flap of metal dangling down. That is off the centre section of the exhaust. I did have a couple of comments saying that, you know, that does happen and you can cut it off and then, you know, it's okay, but I just don't feel good doing that. That's just not me, you know. Like, it's just one of those things, like, yeah, you can, but doesn't mean that you should. Like, I'm just not the sort of person that will just sleep sound at night knowing that that hasn't been done. And my missus was saying the other day, she said, you need to be honest with yourself about who's, you know, the sort of person that's going to be buying this car. It's probably going to be a young girl, maybe even a first car, you know, a car of this age and of this price. It was a first car for my missus. That's how it got some of these dings on the bumper that you've seen. So, you know, I don't want someone to have this as a first car and then as soon as they drive down the road, bits are falling off of it, you know. Like my missus always says, you know, she gets worried sometimes that, you know, she's going to get mugged off by a bloke buying a car. And, you know, I get that, I do get that. Especially when you haven't got the faintest idea. So, you know, I'm just not going to do it. Alright, so just before I go and do the brakes, I just thought actually I'd just come in. Now I've attached all the front and hooked up the lights again, I just wanted to see if that was what was causing that warning light, and yeah, I just turned the engine straight back on with all the lights connected, and it's gone out. And so it's just those lights, seatbelt, handbrake and the door. So daytime running lights and the headlights working, everything is ace. And there we have it, fresh new brakes. Easy, I didn't film it, it's brakes, it's not difficult, there was no drama. So I think what I am going to do next is I'm going to reconnect all the suspension and the steering, you know, the ball joints, and get all this buttoned down again properly. And then I think we're just going to take Tina for a spin. I can't really think of much else that might need doing. Don't forget, she's already got a valid MOT, so she's technically roadworthy. So I think, you know, a half decent road test, put the engine through its paces a little bit, just to make sure everything's okay. I won't stray too far, you know, just in case. I think that's probably going to be the best course of action. But I won't be doing that in this video. I will be doing that in the next one, which is where I'll see you. Please do consider subscribing, it helps me out. Yeah, it was a bit of a shorter one today. I didn't have all that much to do, to be honest with you. I thought the engine was going to take way longer than it did to resolve the whole oil pressure situation, but